What's going on, everyone? My name is AugurFC, and welcome back to the channel. Quick note, we will be going live tonight at 6:30 p.m. Central for our podcast, RFC After Hours, so be there on this channel. With that being said, I want to talk about Chris Hansen's stream last night, or rather, it was a premiere. It wasn't actually, done live. It was just a pre-recorded stream that was then premiered to his audience, and it was actually very good. Anyone who follows this channel closely and pays attention to my live streams knows that I've been pretty skeptical of Hansen recently, as there's been just a lot of infighting and surrounding drama that's really distracted us from the core problem, which is Onision. And the so-called investigation and FBI connection, it was just not being talked about. And I know investigations like this take time, but what we were seeing and what we were promised was not lining up, and people were getting a little worried and starting to lose faith in Hansen. However, I'm here to say that Hansen's show last night was very, very well done. I think it did very well in shrinking our doubt in Hansen by showing us a little inside look at the investigation going on. In this stream, Hansen speaks to Ed Schroyer, the executive director in the Tacoma Pierce County, as you can see on his Twitter right here. Hansen spoke to Schroyer to get some information on what's going on with Onision and the case behind the scenes, and it was a very good stream. Now, I have some timestamps, so let's go ahead and take a look at the first one, where Mr. Schroyer talks about the multitude of police calls that he's been getting about Onision.
First, I want to get to the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. Ed Schroyer, Pierce County Sheriff's Department, thanks for being with us tonight. How are you?
Great, thanks for having us.
Listen, first off, you've got a situation with James Jackson, Gregory Jackson, known on the internet.
A lot of different names and different identities.
Yeah. You've had 19 calls to that house in 2019 alone. Is that unusual?
That's very unusual. As you know, probably most of your viewers, yourself and myself, we don't get a single call a year, let alone 19. And they have a lot of different types of aspects to the calls, whether there's turmoil at the residence, whether we're getting calls from across the country reporting possible sexual abuse, all the way from a kid falling out the window to fake swatting 911 type calls where people from across the country are using that address to send the police and our deputies to that residence. So anytime we go to that residence, our radar's up and we're checking things out.
Right off the bat, not a good look for Onision, as if this guy has some, stunning reputation to protect or anything. But when you're getting 19 police calls, and although some of those, the sheriff does admit are people just, swatting him, which is entirely non-productive to the investigation. If you think swatting Onision is going to do anything to protect these girls or to protect their children, you're absolutely brain dead. I mean, that's just a terrible idea. Don't be swatting anyone, even Onision. That being said, though, I find it interesting that Mr. Schroyer makes reference to the fact that these calls range from all kinds of issues. One thing that Schroyer makes reference to is the fact that Onison's kid fell out the second-story window, which is something that we covered, and when I covered this story, me personally, I could not even believe this was a real thing that happened. Fortunately, though, there is good news about that. Let's take a look at that part.
Good news is that the kid's okay. By some lucky bounces and some different things, the kid actually is going to be just fine. Sure could have turned out differently, though.
So it appears the way that the kid landed, the impact was minimal, and they're going to be just fine. If there's any such modern-day example you need of a miracle, this lines up pretty close to that, I'd have to say. But what about CPS?
Harm, death, injury, or abuse, we always refer to Child Protective Services, yes.
And so that happened in this case?
Yes, it did.
And do we know the status? I know that that's a separate agency from the Sheriff's Department, but do you get feedback on that? Do we know the status of the Child Protective Services investigation?
We'll have to wait until we get them more information about what's going on at that residence. So they're still waiting for some information from us as we put it together, just like we'll wait for their investigation when it's done. But this is something that's continually ongoing, and a lot of the people that are involved in this are from out of state, so it's a little bit tricky. And also, it involves the internet and involves a slippery slope where we're having a hard time finding people that are actual victims. A lot of the reports that we have come from third parties who maybe recognize their kids that are involved in some of this activity, or people that are just seeing it on his YouTube channel. So what we need to do is try and determine actual victims and get them down and get them interviewed, find out what is actually going on.
So information has been forwarded to CPS as well, which is also very good news and something that people had questions about. as I think anybody who heard about this case was wondering, like, wait, is this grounds to have Onisians' kids taken away and put into a more safer environment where, let's say, 2 to 3 year olds aren't falling out of 2-story windows? Again, very good news to hear. Here's, in my opinion, without a doubt, the best news that we heard from this stream. Let's take a listen to Hanson right here, right at the beginning of the stream.
I also spoke with the FBI today, and they are now making arrangements to get the laptop and cell phone of Sarah, one of the victims in this investigation. So that is proceeding. I'll have more on the rest of this in a minute, but first I want to get to the Pierce County Sheriff's Department.
Which is wonderful news. Of course, we know that this was supposed to have happened months ago, when the laptop was sitting on Vincent's desk and he told the girl that it was going to the FBI, but then never got around to it and then ended up sending the laptop back to her. We now know that Chris Hansen is back in contact with the FBI and the laptop will be sent to them so that they can investigate and take a look at what's really on there.
I understand, because I've been doing this for some 40 years, that it takes time to put these investigations together. What can you say to assure the victims, the people following this case, that justice will be served in this matter?
That's why there's 19 police case numbers, and that's why there's that many reports, and that's why there's a detective working the case. One of the things that we're doing, that we're fighting, is people could be anywhere in the world, just not in our county, Pierce County. There's no borders on this case, and these tools and these social media apps that are out there allow people to reach around the world and victimize anybody. And we are actually way ahead of people when it comes to technology and the knowledge of how to stop these things. But you get one chance to charge somebody and arrest somebody, and if you mess it up, then that's really bad for the victim. But we want them to know that there is a detective assigned. They are working with other agencies. The prosecutor's aware that this is going on. We're continuing to put stuff together and feed it to the prosecutor. And when the time's right, we would like to do what we can to put an end to this.
This is all very remarkable news to hear, and the reason for that is because the surrounding drama with Vincent and the speculation that Hansen working with Mike Morse might not be a good idea given Mike Morse's pending sexual assault case has led many people to lose faith in Hansen, and a lot of people are kind of coming to the conclusion, given how long it's taken for something serious to happen, that Hansen's simply in it for the money and here for the clicks. And while that may be true, that could very well be the case, that Hansen's just entirely in it for the money. Ask yourself, is anybody covering this Onisian story, does everybody care about it, or are they just in it for the views because it's a hot trending topic? Regardless of whether they are or they're not, if they genuinely care, if they're doing something good, whether that be spreading awareness or taking this to the FBI or forwarding information to local, state, and federal authorities, then regardless of whether they care or not, as long as something's being done that's positive, that's progressing the case forward, then who cares? What people weren't seeing is that sense of progression. But what I think we all forgot is that these cases take a lot of time, they take a lot of effort, and, things don't just move at a quick pace. And I think a lot of people, when they get into this YouTube drama happens very quickly. It starts and ends abruptly in just a matter of days. If a drama lasts for longer than a week, that's considered a, long stretch of time. But this is not just a YouTube drama. I mean, it's kind of been turned into that. But at the heart of the case, it's still a very serious matter of a guy with, multiple channels with millions of subs in them grooming and abusing children. This is not something that's going to get resolved in just a matter of a month or whatever. This is a long case in the process. And I think that by Hansen firing up a stream like this, where he shows us a little bit of what's going on behind the scenes, I think that was a wonderful move at really just quenching the doubt and the suspicion that they're just doing streams, just talking about it, and nothing's really going on behind the scenes. There actually is a real FBI investigation going on. And according to Mr. Troyer, quote, that's why there's 19 police case members, and that's why there's that many reports, and that's why there's a detective working on the case. So all of that's well and good on its own, but I want to play one final clip where Hansen addresses Vincent, which is, I think is just the icing on the cake, as we've seen the cases going forward, the kid's okay, lots of good news in this stream right here. But right at the end, Hansen does address Vincent, and I want to play that clip for you guys so you can take a look at what he has to say.
One other thing I want to mention tonight, and you probably heard that my former so-called web producer. I say that loosely because mostly what he produced in the end was chaos, confusion, and a distraction from our very important investigation.
That's true.
And the sensitivity towards the victims in the investigation. Along the way, he thought it necessary to hit some YouTube streamers with copyright strikes. Now, he first did this this past summer, and he did it after explaining to me that it had to be done to protect the previous YouTube channel that I had. Subsequent to that, I realized that was not necessary. I asked him to revoke all the strikes he made then, and he did some of them. I don't know if he did all of them. I asked him never to do that again under any circumstances. He did about a month ago, and some channels were hit. I instructed him to withdraw the strikes again. This is one of the issues that I had with him and why he no longer works with me. But I want to make it very clear that now that I understand the ramifications, the motive behind it, perhaps, I want to apologize to some of the people who were hit. Joey TCAP, Yap Yap, Wes, Baked Salmon, and any others who
These names, man.
took a strike from my former so-called web producer. I apologize. If there are any issues lingering out there, let me know. I'll address it as best as I can.
I think it's important to take a listen to the language Hansen chooses to use here. It seems as if he didn't really understand what a strike was or the impact a strike has, and that would make sense. You know, to a boomer, a strike doesn't have the same meaning as it does to people, whether they're YouTubers or viewers, as the word has to them. You know, when we hear strikes and we hear a channel is striking people, that's like the mortal sin of YouTube. Like, you don't issue a strike. You better have a damn good reason to issue a strike. But for the most part, people are not comfortable with channels that strike other channels for even what some may consider valid reasons. It seems like Hansen's starting to learn that, as he's been on YouTube now for 6 or 7 months, and now he's starting to understand that, yeah, striking is a big no-no on YouTube, and to see him apologize and to reference Vincent directly and what he's done is just great to listen to. All in all, this was a fantastic Hansen stream, really deals with a lot of the doubts that we had, and although you might think, you know, Hansen's still a grifter, I still have my suspicions on the guy. Regardless of that, it doesn't matter. You know, you gotta think critically and look at this. You know, is he a grifter? Does he work with sketchy people? All of this may be true, but does it change the fact that he's actually taking this predator that's been on YouTube for over a decade now and really vetting all the information, all the allegations against him, and sending it to law enforcement that's trained to deal with these types of situations? If Hansen's a sketchy crook who works with bad people, it does not change any good action he does for the platform and for the Onision case. We'll be covering all this and more on this channel, and like I said at the beginning, we'll be on the podcast tonight, live on this channel, RFC After Hours, 6:30 p.m. Central, broadcast live on this channel. My name's RFC. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace out, everyone.